I'm taking lunch, so.
"2 kilometers in real-life ministry of whiz-bang. Asterisk. There is no reason to be afraid, my children." The voice was calm and reassuring, as if it were coming from the deepest part of the forest itself. "I am here to help you."
I'm gonna moderate the volume here, because it's a really abrasive sound.
A group of people dressed in white robes stood before them. They looked like a choir or an orchestra, but their faces were blank. They all wore identical masks made of the same material, an opaque porcelain that appeared to be fused with their skin. Luckily I was with Mary Kay and I was doing my rounds. I had just the moisturizer for them. "So what's your secret?" I asked. "We have taken upon ourselves the role of mediator," said one of them. He wasn't talking to me. He was addressing the crowd. I said, "Would you like to take a sample of all that Mary Kay has available for your skins and needs? We can take the time if you all have kitchen that I could lay out my stuff in." They looked at each other. "We don't need anything from you." "Well, why not then?" "Because we are not here for you," they replied. "Who invited you into this world?" I wasn't aware that my question Maiden Snark was also the first question of their catechism. We aren't here to give answers. We only act as your guides on this journey. And that was enough to get the conversation back on track. Then why did you bring us here? We want to show you something. To help you see things more clearly. The group began marching towards the edge of the forest, where the grass was beginning to turn yellow, signaling the onset of winter. Unfortunately, I was wearing one layer to less and was starting to shiver, and my sack of Mary Kay products was clacking this at every step. "Mary Kay's bestseller," I exclaimed, and tried to shake them off. They didn't budge. Mary Kay had given me my first job and my first clients. It was my passion.
Social anxiety.
My time as a Mary Kay salesperson was the first pass at with social anxiety, and I couldn't meet the needs of all of my potential customers. "Can I help you?" one of them approached me. He was holding the handle of a small wooden box. I thought maybe he wanted me to use some of my cream, but he didn't even look at my face. He just told me to put my hand in the box, and I asked what's in the box, and then he asked pain, and I said that I don't know what's in the box or my name. "Then you cannot understand." I thought about my situation. It seemed like these people were trying to get a reaction out of me. I excused myself, and I then went to a little nook in the woods on top of the hill, ostensibly to pee, but I actually called my supervisor and told her was the situation and to please advise on an emergency basis because my hands were being held against my will, and if something happened to me and Mary Kay, my life would end, and I was very sorry and was going to die. And so she said, "Do whatever you gotta do," and I said okay, and I went back to where the group was standing right outside. And I decided to put on my best game face right in front of them, using a quick selection of Mary Kay's Women on the Go special line of skincare products. I was ready to take charge. I walked straight up to them and I said, "What's going on? Why was I invited here?" Because now is when I was going to talk about the importance of maintaining proper hydration. I had them. But then one of the masked ones came and picked me up and threw me into the river. And then they pulled me out and I was wet but alive. I didn't care. I was not going to let these assholes keep hurting me and ruining my favorite day of the week. So, I told him that the Women on the Go skincare line is also water resistant, as evidenced by my F*** face. They started laughing and then they put me back on the side of the road and they left. That was the last time I ever saw them. Asterisk 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 10 kilometers in real life ministry of whiz bang. Meditation. It's interesting that the word sounds a lot more dirty and wet. It's supposed to cover up the shame and the guilt and the shame and the fear and the shame and the fear and the shame and the fear and the fear and the shame and the shame and the fear and the shame and the fear and the fear and the shame and the fear and the shame and the fear and the fear and
Okay. Let me change the voice a little bit and see what else we have. No, I can't do it here. I gotta do it, and the keyboard settings. What about, nope. Text to speech. Okay. Let's see here.
this is an example of speech synthesis in English. This is an example of speech synthesis in English. こちらが日本語音声合成のサンプルです。
Yes, exactly. This is a minimalist keyboard. This is a minimalist thingy. Okay. Now, new story.
And that I can handle myself in any situation. They don't know me. Not really. There's no way they could. They're just telling me what to do, so I'll carry out their orders without question or complaint.
Text to speech. Let's punch it up a little bit. There you go. And then we'll do the chirps. Something good. There we go.
They probably think of this as my own form of revenge for losing our first battle with them. I wonder if they would have done better in our position than we did. When they first made contact, I was still in junior high, so my knowledge and training of this technology was practically inexistent. Meaning that it exists in a few alternate timelines that I wasn't really cut his hair growth, but I knew I could reach out to the enemy to save them from death by drowning at one point, because that was just how bad I wanted that information, but that's okay now. I won't die young from stress anymore now that they've started treating me like an employee rather than a prisoner. it has started to include some wonderful benefits like medical care if injuries architect catastrophic enough or dental care if it's catastrophic enough. The only catch is if it gets really catastrophic then. I don't have anything else I can think of. But if things are not catastrophic at the time that I'm getting them looked at, the company will usually let me keep the money I saved for dental work and use it as a credit at the Sam Goody music store, where I spend a lot of my time fiddling around with the synthetic keys of the synthesizers in the percussion tables and the Windwood words of advice. There isn't really an end product to that. You might not see the same kind of results as my first one, so it could be really hard for you to know what to look for in those situations, and then I'd have to show them to you, and that would probably lead us nowhere since you were never really into music anyway, what with your training in the extreme religious arts, and that you didn't like the synthesists who I had been using on most of my songs since they weren't much like people, so, yeah. It's pretty awesome when things are going well like right now, and if we start to have issues then that makes for good material for future projects. Like, check out my most recent artworks ever past arguments over a piece like this. That would mean it wasn't as bad as the other ones and therefore more deserving of its fame and fortune as a symbol of my talent that everyone else sees it being when compared with those older pieces. My juvenilia Well Gorefield was nonetheless filled with a little bit of kind all those drawings and stories and stuff, but they're pretty terrible, so don't bother reading them or watching some of the tapes or videos. You just want to forget that those kinds of things happen, but unfortunately you never will unless you read those things, and you'll realize what a terrible thing it was for me. But the time it was the only way I could cope with the kidnapping across state lines to print it, mines to collect lines, or to just get it all over. I mean, come on, that was totally messed up. There wasn't just like that. Yeah, it was pretty bad at the moment, but as you may have noticed, I am a man who is not a fan of the past. I'm usually a be here now type of dude until I heard of that study. It said that piss were only 15 to 20 seconds in the past at all times. Even with my superpowers of telekinesis, it just didn't make sense. That was something like 3 minutes into the future from then, so like you were talking about but they had to bring me down a bit. So there are those memories still lurking there. As a result of that study, I tried to talk against myself, see if I can make up for that 15 to 20 seconds for just a bit to fix the world or something. I'll try everything so long as I can still get my hands on something like a piece of bread to throw around or some kind of ball. I used to play a basketball. It wasn't great back or my life. I don't believe anyone is. I can go back in it. Then one day the person who would be my mentor said, "But you can go back to the past any day you have your memories." And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but it doesn't seem possible for someone to travel to the past just yet because we haven't built that stuff, but that might not even happen, so it's like, okay, whatever. So imagine my shock when you and your office offered me the job being an administrative assistant for your time travel concern after I'd left for a job elsewhere. How were you even supposed to know who to look for when someone asked how to find me? But of course there's only been one guy whose name started with R. That's really close. I'm not surprised there. The kudos to you two snatching me from my potential employer by using your time travel machine to find the perfect employer that would be my replacement so that they wouldn't get mad at us for having someone with a history with him that would have had a major problem taking him back into service. And it is amazing to the amount of work you can do while the other party can't possibly do much work in the time as he is not present, because even though I am technically in the here and now, I have to be somewhere, and sometimes that takes more of my mental faculties than just staying in my apartment with my girlfriend and doing nothing because she wants me to be with her. I can't believe that you guys don't remember those old pieces of music I had been working on until the
No, that's nothing. But
recital at Carnegie Hall. We're in a frontman for the John Cage and Philip Glass Orchestra when the conductor was forced to stop the performance in the middle to tell us where we should stand so he'd know where his cues were. But when it comes time for that part, everyone stood and we couldn't figure out who was playing where on the piano for a moment, so I played a bunch of the instruments. The record producer happened to be there at the time and saw my virtual city at every instrument and said, "Hey, would you like to be the next prince in town?" And all but the one I'd been hired by for the project were dead by the next afternoon, so I think that it shows a great deal that a new piece of work is so easily accepted into society after a mere 30 years as the composer. And I appreciate all the previous generations in the blood donation on the way out the door and the medical and dental care when we needed it. We didn't get much out of being an employee for the past 4 years, but it sure beats being a convict. And there are some great benefits to this job if I can ever find the time to enjoy them ****. This is Novel AI, the GPT-powered AI storyteller.
Okay, it's much better. It's actually,
This is Novel AI, the GPT-powered AI storyteller. This is Novel AI, the GPT-powered AI storyteller.
wait, pitch doesn't do that.
This is Novel AI, the GPT-powered AI storyteller. This is Novel AI, the GPT-powered AI storyteller. This is Novel AI,
Sorry for
the
the repetition there.
GPT-powered AI storyteller.
This is not Germany. Alright. Trying to think of a good. Oh.
I was at Thanksgiving visiting family and one night and I woke up and finding myself in another room that was not mine, and I found out that I had become a boll weevil and that my life was now the life of a boll weevil. It seemed to me that this would be an easy life for me because it would give me more time to watch television, which is what I really wanted to do anyway. Boll weevils don't have much mass in this world and so have never had the strength to press the penny button on those remote control machines and get their favorite channels. But now they were free to use the buttons whenever they liked, and so there were many times when I watched television all day long without moving from the couch except to go to the bathroom or to eat some of the food that came through the air ducts into the living. in the basement of a suburban home that I had been happening all my life. I've become a frequent visitor to the QVC shopping online, and I'm a frequent guest customer at Walmart.com. My favorite show was called the Home Shopping Network. It featured a woman who wore a dress made entirely out of sponges. She had a sponge-painted face and she sang songs while selling kitchen utensils and kitchen gadgets. Oddly enough, she never sold any sponge-based products. Instead, her shows were full of knives and spatulas and other items that could be used to cut meat. It was like watching someone shop for steak knives after having just eaten a large piece of steak. I had made some bids on this one spatula that was owned by Louis XIV, and I thought if I won the auction I might actually win something of historical importance, but I didn't. In fact, no one bid against me on any item. I ended up buying a number of items that I did not need with money that I did not have.